Hello everyone, glad you could join me today. It's a lovely Sunday afternoon here. It's finally stopped raining, the sun is out. We've had rain for about the past 3 days, so it's good to have some good weather, and I think it's time now to start part 3 of making this Viking Longship. Also, please stick around to the end of the video as I want to talk to you about a way in which you, the subscribers, may be able to contribute to making this Viking Longship. So I came in this morning and I managed to get another board on the top here. So we now have sort of a board and a half above where the ribs are, and the deck is going to sit on the ribs. I've also taken a little bit off the top of the ribs, only about 5mm, and that's so they line up with this board here. This sort of 3 boards down, that's where the deck is gonna sit. So I did have some trouble riveting these on, as I said in the last video, and you can see here that it sort of started off going nicely. You can see they're all relatively even. They're not as even as I would have liked, but I do like the effect. I think it's really cool. And then I managed to mess it up on this one. I put a too severe bend in, and so that meant that the bottom, or the front and back of the ship, was much lower down where we were bending in. And so I've then, these next 2 boards, I've managed to fix it, but it does then mean that they're sort of uneven as they're coming in to the front and the back. But I think it's okay. I've managed to get it so it's flat now on the top, whereas before on this one, because there's that severe bend in it, it's much lower down, and so it's not flat. But luckily I managed to fix it, and so it is now. Another thing, maybe it's a little bit too wide. I think it is wider than I had originally planned, but there's nothing that I can do about that now. It is what it is. It does look cool though. If you look from the front there, you can see all of the boards bending down, and that was the effect that I was going for, so I'm happy with that. Also, you notice at the front I've put it back in the fire to heat it up, so this has got a nice scaled forged finish on, rather than that polished surface that was left after grinding and cutting these boards back. Anyway, today we're going to be moving on to the deck. And the deck, originally I had planned to do it out of one piece, but looking at this, I can't actually get the deck in if it's one piece, because you'll notice that here, this length to where the top of the boards are at the hoods is less than the length that the deck would actually be, because the deck is going to sit right up in the corner there, and so I can't make it out of one piece because I can't actually get it in. So I'm going to have to make it out of 2 pieces, and I think I'll do sort of a 2/3 and then a third for the back, or maybe 3/4 and a quarter, and then the back section will be sort of free from the ship, so that I can get it out and then you can see the inside of the ship. I think that would be quite cool, to be able to actually see the inside of this fit up here, because otherwise you only see it from the outside. I've got some of the boards for the deck already cut, so I need to put a forge texture on all of these pieces so we don't have that nasty mill scale, and so it matches the ship as it is at the moment, as all of it's forged. So we want a nice forged texture on all these pieces, so I've got to heat them all up and just quickly go over them with a hammer. I'm not putting any tapers on them, I'm just texturing them. I've got these guys all textured up. They're all slightly different lengths, as obviously we're going to have to create that U shape as the ship comes to the prow and the stern. But obviously this is also only about half, well, 2/3 of the actual length of the deck, as I'm going to make it into two halves. These 3 pieces are going to be the bits that hold it all together. So these boards are all going to get riveted to these 3 pieces, and I haven't textured those as you're not going to see them, as they're going to be on the underside of the deck. I do need to straighten all of these bars. They're a bit wibbly wobbly at the moment, but I can straighten them, and they're all oversized, and that's so that I can make sure, gradually grind in the shape of the ship, so it's going to be a perfect fit. And then at this end, this sort of under support is going to be halfway. So these boards are going to come on halfway, have a rivet through, and then the last third, which is going to be the back of the ship, is then going to sit onto there. And I don't think I'm going to rivet that down. I think I'm going to leave that so we can take that in and out. I've got to work out where I'm going to put all of these rivets, straighten the bars, drill all the holes, rivet it all together. I've straightened all the bars, and I've got the first 2 holes drilled, and I think this is going to be the best way to do it, is get this last sort of support beam riveted on first, then the second one, and then the third one wherever I've put that piece of steel. I managed to lose it already. But I think that's going to be the best way, so I can have sort of a set line on this end, and then grind that end to fit the radius of the prow of the ship. So another time lapse of riveting all this together. So that started off really well. You can see they're all nice and square there, and then this one just had to go and mess it up. I didn't check that it was very straight, so it needs some heat on it back here to bend in, and then hopefully those two we can just bend in as well. But I'll do that when I rivet the next support on, so that I know that they're all going to be nice and tight. You know, we've got a nice fit up. There's no cracks in the boards. Oh God, look what I've done. I riveted it on the wrong side. Well, I'm gonna have to grind these off, flip it over, rivet it back. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. I think I must not have woken up properly today, and that just went not very good. First, I managed to rivet it on the wrong side, and then I've just not paid attention when I was riveting this on, and it is completely off square. But I managed to do it, and hopefully you won't actually be able to tell, because these rivets are pretty much in line, and that's what you're going to see. Now I've got the support planks riveted on. I'm going to begin to edge in the shape of the ship, and so I'm going to carefully cut this shape on. We've got plenty of material. That inside line of this bar is going to rest up against the rib, so I've got a good 2 inches of material to work with on the end here. So I've just got to carefully keep on going back and forth, making sure that I'm not taking too much material off, and gradually cut this shape in, because I can't even like trace around the edge to get the shape, so I'm going to have to keep on going back and forth. We've got the deck sort of fit up. It's not as neat as I would have liked, but it, you know, for what it is, I think it'll do. Unfortunately, the width wasn't quite divisible by 25mm, which is what this strapping is. There's about an extra like 4mm that I would have to fill, but of course I can't fill a 4mm little area because the rivets are 4mm, so I wouldn't actually be able to get a little slither of plank in to fill this gap. So it is going to be what it is, but I think it's looking good. And I put another board in here because these were sort of all up and down on the end, so I put another board in on the underside to support that. And you can tell as well how badly I've put this one in now. You've got a nice square one next to it, but it's yeah, it's looking good. So I've got to make the back section, which I'm going to leave, you know, so we can take out. And then the way that I'm actually going to attach the deck is going to be with these little, they call them knees. So little knees that rivet onto the deck and then onto the top boards. And so again, on a usual, you know, on a historically accurate ship, there would be loads of them, like the ribs, there would be like a dozen of them. So again, I don't think I'm going to make a dozen knees. I'm only going to do maybe 3 each side or something like that. I don't know the exact number yet, but not as many as there would actually be historically. But again, I've got to wait to put the knees on. I can rivet them onto this, but what I can't do is then rivet them onto the ship, as things like the mast and all the stuff that is going to go on the deck, I need to rivet on the deck. So I've got to forge tenons, and then they're all going to be riveted on from the underside. So I can't rivet this, fix this to the ship until I've put everything on the deck. So that'll be the last thing. The last thing will be riveting the deck on via the knees. I'll make the back piece now and then work out how I'm going to do the knees. I've already put the forge texture on these pieces. I did it when I had the forge lit. So they're ready to be riveted on, and I've cut a support. You'll see I've put some vague chalk marks on this longest piece, and so that mark is there hopefully for where the support beam is going to go on the underside, and then I'm going to cut it at that mark. So cut them along there so we get a nice flush edge, but I'll do that after I've shaped up all of this end, because that's of course going to change. It's going to move in as I'm shaping all of this, so this mark may be closer or further away depending on how it all comes together. I like, this is the way that I like to make things. I do it by eye really, rather than taking measurements. I've just put that in the ship, marked on my lines. It's all oversized, and I'll gradually just work it down. I think that's the best way to do it really, and probably a more accurate way to how blacksmiths used to work. There wasn't a millimeter metric imperial scale to measure things by. You would just do it by eye and by checking your lengths every so often. Anyway, let's drill some holes and rivet this on. So I'll grind in the shape of the back end of the ship, then cut the excess off, and that should be this piece done. I'm liking this. It's pretty clean. There is a bit of a gap between the planks where they meet up, but that's so you can actually get this back end out. Although it's still quite hard to get out, but you can. This part we can still get out there, and that gap, you have to have the gap there to be able to get it out. I've also put a tiny bit of 6mm rod just into the stern, and that's so that the point there rests on that to make sure that all the deck is level, as I was finding that this was kicking down slightly, so I've just brought it up so it's level with the rest of the deck. I think that's all the boarding that there is going to be on the ship completely done now. So the deck and the sides, that's it. I can now move on to making the knees, which may be a little tricky, as I think we're going to have to do like a step on a few of them, maybe not the ones. They're also going to be different sizes. As you can see there, it is pretty level, but it's not quite level, and that's because of that whatever plank down it is where there's a severe bend in it. So there's going to be, I think what I'm going to do is 2 at sort of the ends of the ship, and then 1 in the middle, or maybe 2 in the middle, I don't know. But I can't rivet them onto to the deck. I can't rivet them onto the deck or the sides, because I've got to wait and work out where I'm going to put all of the oars and the shields and things, because I don't want to rivet something on where there's then going to have to be another rivet on the outside, if you understand what I mean. Because the knees, I want to align the knees up so they're not in line with a shield or where an oar is going to go. Leaving them off is hopefully going to give me a bit more flexibility. Here's the first little knee that I've made. I'll call it looks a bit more like a boot really, but that's where it's going to go. So the idea being that I can drill a hole through there, rivet it to the deck, and drill a hole through there, riveting the deck now to the actual ship. You'll see I've also put in a little step, and that's so that it sits flush with the boarding, because we have a step down. And that was something that really, you know, traditionally they'll do that on the ribs. However, I didn't, as you're not going to see them. But because you are going to see these, I thought I'd better put that little step on. However, I probably won't need to do it for the end ones because the boards have that bending. So it'll just be the middle two that has this little step. Anyway, I'll show you how I've made this one now. It's all just bench work, really. There was no forging in this. I just drilled some holes and cut the shape out with an angle grinder. To create this radius, I actually drilled it with a 13mm drill bit. So I'm going to mark out where I need to drill that hole and then just cut the shape out with an angle grinder. So I've got the 6 knees made up, and I may end up making another pair, which would go here, depending on where the shields and the oars are going to go. Obviously these two are only going to be riveted to that deck rather than at the side, so we can still get that out. But yeah, I think that's about it for the deck. I'm excited. You know, it's looking pretty good. You can see that it's looking a bit more ship-like. Hopefully the shields are going to add a bit more height to the sides, as it is quite low. You know, there's not much of a sort of a wall, if you would like, at the side of the ship. There's not much there, really. It probably would have another plank on, but hopefully the shields will bring that up a bit more. Let's call it there for this video. We've got the deck sort of all forged out, so I think that's a good point to finish. Hopefully next week, in the next video, we're going to be starting the mast and the sail, and maybe some of the other stuff that goes on the deck. I don't know yet, but I think, yeah, the mast and the sail, that's what we're going to be doing next. There is going to be one final cooking video coming out, so that will come out in the next 4 days, and then 4 days after that we'll have part 4 now of the Viking Longship. I said at the start of the video that there may be a way in which you guys can get involved in making this. So a subscriber, George Griffiths, I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please tell me if I'm not, George. But anyway, George suggested that you guys could make the shields. So I don't know if this is something that you want to do, but I think it would be a really cool thing to do to the ship. So I just work out what size disc the shields need to be, and then tell you lot, go and make whatever you want. Just go make your own design of a shield. You then send that to me, post it to me, and I'll rivet them onto the ship. And I think that would be, pretty cool thing to try and do. So what I'm saying is, do you want to do it? Please let me know down in the comments, because if we can get enough people to actually, make these shields so we can actually put them all on, I think it would be really cool. So everybody who's watching these videos can have their own little personal touch onto the final piece. Well, at least depending on how many shields I get. If I get like 1,000 shields made for me, they're obviously not all going to be on the ship. But I can work out, based off the comments, how many shields we're roughly going to get made from you subscribers. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. So thank you to George for suggesting this, and hopefully you all want to do it. All right, that'll do. Thank you for watching the video. Please let me know about the shields, and I'll see you on the next cooking video, and then part 4 of making a Viking Longship.